Hi class. Today we're going to be talking about work and families. Certainly an area where we've seen a lot of changes in the last half of the 20th century, some of which we've talked about before. One of the things that we have done some beginning discussion of is the rise of shared decision-making within a marriage. This coincides, not unexpectedly, with the increase in women earning, women working outside the home and earning paychecks. It also coincides with the increase in the proportion of housework done by husbands. You'll see in your book on 281 a chart showing the labor force participation of women with children under 18. Interesting and certainly representing a big change in the last half of the 20th century. Behind the rise in labor force participation, the expansion of the service sector, an area where many women have sought employment. And of course there are fewer children, as jobs don't require the labor of children as farm work did. And families invest more in each child they produce. Also, we've seen the decline in the wages of men without a college education and a rise in the divorce rate. And so women, of course, finding themselves single or wanting to be single, have a need for their own earning power. So we're going from single earner to dual earner marriages. And it's a very profound change. It affects the balance of power in a marriage. And it was an important factor in the shift that we've talked about before when we discussed the history of marriage, from companionate marriage to independent, individualistic marriage. This change was less important for poor women and minority women, who have always had to go out to work. The current situation, it's common for married women to work outside the home, from young adulthood through retirement. There has been a slight decline in labor force participation since 2000 among professional women. It's much hyped in the news. There are stories of women opting out, but there's little evidence that it's widespread. In 60% of all marriages in 2009, there were both spouses working. The median contribution of the wife is 37% of the family's income. And it's becoming more common, not the majority by any means, but more common for wives to earn more than their husbands. Husbands are still the main earners in the majority of households. Let's look at some of the implications of long-term unemployment, which we have seen recently, and its effects on marriage. The Great Recession hit men harder than women, partly because the service sector was hit less hard. So with the men having more difficulty than they had with jobs, there was a need to increase the labor force participation of women. Now, what if they really didn't want to? And a big source of discussion, what about the housework? older couples faced more difficult circumstances if the man's job was downsized, lost in some other way. Because it's harder for older employees to replace one job with another. So if there was a need for the wife in an older couple to get a job when she hadn't had one, she has no work record and no experience, so there would be a difficulty for her in getting a job that would pay. We're going to take a little break now. Back in a minute.